moment in time. That's a quote from author Libba Bray. Words of wisdom based on her life experience. Libba's dad announced to his family that he was gay. Because he was a Presbyterian minister, he remained in the closet to the rest of the world. It wouldn't be for another 25 years that the Supreme Court would strike down laws banning gay sexual activities. Weeks after her high school graduation, Libba was in a car accident. She needed 13 surgeries to reconstruct her face, including an artificial eye. Weeks after her high school graduation, she had that setback. She graduated from college. She graduated in 1988. Moved in with her friend Ed and his same-sex partner Norbert. When the landlord came by, Libba pretended out of fear that Ed and Norbert could be evicted, just for being gay. Over the course of the next 2 years, Libba lost her friend Norbert and her father to HIV/AIDS. Back then, people called it a gay cancer, but Libba persevered. Her first book, A Great and Terrible Beauty, became the first of a trilogy of New York Times bestsellers. Libba's story is rooted in change, good and bad, adversity and adaptation. Her failures and struggles are just as important as her successes. Both equally help shape who she is today. I think that is true of our country as well. There are so many issues that compel me to speak out. I stand before you today to ask you to join me in my run for the White House because I believe this is the most important presidential election of our time. The COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us all how much the American healthcare system has failed us. When politicians say we need Medicare for all, what I hear is VA hospital for all. The Veterans Administration is among the worst in our healthcare system. In 2014, the VA falsified data to show compliance with its own deadlines, and then many died before even receiving care. This top-down monopoly is unacceptable for any person, let alone those willing to sacrifice their lives in service to our country. Let's be honest. The current American healthcare system isn't working for anyone. Well, that is, anyone other than the wealthy and the well-connected who always have access, or the billion-dollar insurance companies that bring in new record profits every year. My heart breaks for the millions of Americans who have been left behind, those who go bankrupt trying to care for their loved ones, or those with pre-existing conditions who live in constant fear of whether they'll be able to cover an unexpected hospital visit. For decades, politicians in Washington have insisted that it is the free market that has failed us, that we just need to give in and go to a government-run, one-size-fits-all program. I have some news for them. We haven't had anything even close to a free and competition-based system in nearly a century. The alternative to our current big government failure, isn't even a bigger government failure. Some of the biggest issues are at the very core of the American healthcare system. The problem is that it isn't actual insurance. In any other industry, insurance only pays for unexpected costs, and because of that, costs generally remain low. Meanwhile, our broken healthcare system has insurance cover everything, and it leads to higher prices for everyone. Just think how expensive car insurance would be if it paid for gas, oil changes, or car washes. You would have no reason to shop around for those services, and all the mechanics and gas stations would increase cost without you even knowing. The car insurance companies wouldn't care because they'd be getting paid big dollars either way. This is exactly what has happened in our healthcare system. There is absolutely no incentive to look for better prices and to compete. As a result, healthcare providers have no reason to compete. Insurance companies can charge higher prices without any accountability, and all of us have to foot the bill. The best example of how a market-based healthcare system can operate is in Singapore, which reserves the use of insurance for catastrophic care. In 2014, Singapore spent less than a third per person on healthcare than what the United States spent. It's time for real change. We should begin by reforming the FDA approval and patent process for prescription medications. The FDA has completely mismanaged the COVID-19 crisis and has made it extremely difficult for anyone to get tested. At the FDA, only those companies with enough money and resources get approval, and once those companies do, they weaponize patents to keep out competitors. As your president, I will work with the FDA to remove barriers to new prescription drugs and make more drugs available over the counter. The VA system, the VA healthcare system, should be converted to a system like the one used in the state of Indiana, so that veterans are given control over their healthcare dollars, so they can do with it what they wish.
Oh, please vote for her. Please.
Our obligation to veterans should begin not just when they come back, healthcare costs. There are soldiers currently weren't even born when the war on terror began. Absolutely. In that time, over 150,000 people have died in Afghanistan, including 40,000 civilians. In Iraq, 300,000 people are dead, including 200,000 civilians. In Pakistan, 23,000 civilians and 65,000 people total have been killed. The U.S. spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. Our troops are stationed in nearly 150 different countries.
Bring them home! Bring them home!
I'm getting there. But first we have to let the C-SPAN viewers know exactly what the problem is, because the media doesn't seem to be telling them. To continue with our problems that nobody has heard of, including not only the media, but the two major
NFL
parties
banner.
who are both war hawks, our government has increasingly engaged in drone warfare, even striking weddings and hospitals. The names and faces of war change, but the problems remain the same. Nation building and regime change create power vacuums and greater distrust of the United States. And we are left to deal with the same issues over and over again. In every election, candidates promise peace, but they only deliver more war. I will bring the troops home. Yeah!
Bring them home. That's why I'm a libertarian.
Home and turn America into one giant Switzerland, armed and neutral. It's time for real change. Another issue we must address is the environment. We hold an obligation to future generations to end the dependence on fossil fuels. The reason we have that is the federal government gives about $15 billion annually to oil and coal companies. And this doesn't even include the billions in tax credits and cheap public land leases, which disproportionately go to these companies. This is nothing but corporate welfare, taking from the poor and giving to the wealthy. Red tape prevents cleaner and more sustainable energy from entering the marketplace. The most promising is nuclear, whose carbon footprint is vastly outmatched by its efficiency. I will work with Congress to eliminate all energy subsidies and level the playing field. I will also reduce regulations that prevent competition that unfairly entrench older forms of energy. It's time for a real change.
Every president hasn't been a libertarian president, Banner.
The IRS taxes Americans at every turn, and the tax system is so complicated that only those who can afford personal accountants and tax lawyers are able to navigate the code. That same IRS probes
libertarians aren't tied or connected with the military-industrial complex. We will bring them home.
Meanwhile, the government accumulates more debt. Now, some demand increases in domestic spending, while others insist on increases in military spending. And they come to a bipartisan compromise by increasing both. This was epitomized by the $2 trillion CARES Act, which, in our country's most dire time of need, was filled with waste and gave billions of corporate handouts. As your president, I will eliminate the IRS and work with Congress towards eliminating
Station is theft.
When it comes to cutting spending, we cannot take any solutions off the table. I would encourage baseline budgeting. Instead of assuming an increase, we start at zero every year and decide what can be eliminated and what is absolutely necessary. It's time for real change.
That's not libertarian, but that is moving in the right direction, people. That's showing compromise and intelligence.
We must accept that the experiences of some do not live up to our aspirations. When Africans were forcibly seized and brought to the United States, to the now United States, only their worst nightmares could have predicted the badges of slavery would persist half a millennium later. While millions of Americans view the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution with great pride, Black Americans are reminded that their ancestors were in shackles for another century when these founding documents were signed. The same men who promised freedom did not extend those freedoms to Black men, women, and children. Guarantees of liberty and justice for all ring hollow for Black Americans who saw slavery replaced with Black codes, Jim Crow, and now a long list of institutions and programs that are too many to name. As libertarian columnist and researcher Jonathan Blanks has stated, it is not enough to be passively not racist. We by racism. It's time for real change.
Amen. Yep, no more passiveness, actively.
Immigrants also see a stark contrast between our promise and their reality. Though countries of origin have changed, the American legacy of what immigration is supposed to be remains the same. Different cultures held together by inclusion and acceptance. A shining city upon a hill, welcoming the tired, poor, and huddled masses. The data are clear. Immigrants are a United States.
Amen. Absolutely.
Not only do they contribute billions to the economy, but they also commit less crime and take less in government benefits than native-born Americans.
Because they're coming here to succeed.
And current immigrants are assimilating at a quicker rate than ever before. Economics aside, the reasons for free and open immigration rest upon charity and morality. The United States should symbolize a helping hand to those in need and build bridges instead of walls.
Yeah.
I will work with Congress to open the borders and provide a pathway to citizenship for the millions of undocumented persons already in the United States. I would like to see the United States welcome new citizens into our country the way my grandparents were welcomed when they immigrated here.
Mine too.
It's time for real change.
Mine too.
As your president, I will federally decriminalize all drugs. Allow them the power to self-determine
yeah, but Bernie's a
plan
socialist.
of action of drug crimes,
She's
which
not talking
would not
socialism.
be how it is today. We would not see all of the people who are locked up
She's talking
for
freedom.
simple possession, for simple use, with no violence and no actual crime. If there is no victim, there is no crime. Convicted at the federal level of these or any other victimless crimes and leave the door wide open for the medical community to deal with substance abuse issues in ways that can salvage lives, not throw them away.
Amen.
This is just one step towards ending over-incarceration of people of color and letting consensual adult activities become safer and destigmatized, allowing the true victims to be recognized so they can be given the help they need. I will defund federal involvement in policing and civil asset forfeiture.
Defund federal involvement in policing.
And supplying of surplus military equipment and no-knock raids, and the ending qualified immunity so good citizens can take legal action against police brutality when it becomes necessary. I will also increase to ensure that the law applies to its enforcers just as much to its communities. It's time for real change. As your president, I will eliminate the Department of Education and give more choice to students, teachers, and parents, particularly in impoverished areas. We have a large and beautiful country, and people in different parts of the country have different needs and should have control over their educational system. We must end this one-size-fits-all system that the federal government has forced upon us. It's time for real change.
Yep.
In this time of uncertainty, Americans don't need or want someone to rule over them. I've had many roles throughout my career.
Liberty says something like that.
But none has been more rewarding than being on the campaign trail, speaking to people who are simply tired of the failures in Washington. The policies I've outlined today aren't about theories. They're about the middle-class worker who has to decide whether to buy medicine or pay rent. They're about the soldier deployed to a foreign land for no good reason, and the people living there who feel like this to the environment can never be undone. They're about the immigrant who only desires to make a better life for her family without persecution. They're about the person of color who just wants to drive home without fear of being pulled over and killed. They're about the blue-collar worker who watches his hard-earned tax dollars get sent to multi-billion-dollar corporations. It doesn't have to be like this, and we don't have for a new way, a path that recognizes what should have been clear from the beginning. Just like Libertarian persisted despite obstacles, injustice, and misfortune, let's learn from that lasts. Get ready, Libertarians, because we have work to do. Get ready to talk about this campaign and help those unaware of our platform to knock on doors whenever and wherever you can to let people know that there is a better option. The old parties have tried to keep us down, but not this time. We are on our way to the White House, and when we get there, we will give it back to the 330 million Americans it really belongs to. It's time for change. Thank you.
She killed it. Oh, this is our in-person convention. So much. Enjoy your lunch. You will have an awesome lunchtime speaker. It's like speaking at lunch, right? Can you guys see that? I think that's Spike and his wife.
Awesome job. Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.
I can't zoom this thing. I don't know why. It's irritating. That's Spike Cohen and his wife. Yeah, I think that was Joe and her husband. He's got nice hair. That is. Is there still emotion on the floor?
Hey everybody. Okay, we're going to do one quick announcement right before we head on to lunch. I think for the most part we got all most of the technical issues worked out.
Guys.
So for any reason you still having any of your delegates still having technical issues, contact me and Dan Fishman, and
hopefully
we'll make sure your delegates taken care of. Again,
Bernie
will
said that
at 2 p.m. I want to invite Aaron Adams to talk about a really
Bernie
cool
was bound to the Democratic Party.
Aaron Adams?
So if he would have got elected, the same as Republicans, they're bound to their party, they're bound to their corporate sponsors, they're bound to whatever they're bound to by, libertarians aren't. We're bound to liberty.
Wanting to maintain
that's a key point.
Social distancing for everybody, right? We were going to skip pie in the face. But we have two really great substitutions to offer you.
I got my mic on, so.
And after lunch, intermittently, we'll be taking bids for breaks in person. So whether you're remote or in person, you'll be able to bid on these items. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the two of them before we leave. And I'm going to start with my favorite, and then we'll get to what I think is going to be your favorite.
Mean it was a bad thing.
So in this frame is a high-resolution copy of the original Hospers SOP to include
trying to take everybody's
Hosper's
money to pay for everybody else's school and medical care is a bad thing.
Where he spilled his
Bernie
coffee
said
the morning that he delivered it. So this will be available and up for auction for a libertarian who would like to own a copy of the Hospers SOP, the most important document in the history of our party.
I don't know what that stuff is, but,
this one is the one I think you guys are going to like even better. I get it. That's really fucking cool, right? But this one you're going to like better. So who in this room is the only true libertarian? Well, I'm going to invite you to put your money where your mouth is and prove it, because I have a trophy right here that will declare that you are the one true libertarian. So after lunch,
that's funny.
Whether remotely or in person,
y'all want to keep listening to this?
On these two items, we'll do them at breaks. At the end of tomorrow, the highest bidders on these two items will own them.
No, it shouldn't.
Thank you.
Why would the same standard have to apply to her as well?
Thank you very much for that. I kind of like.
Well, okay, then vote in action and let's see a libertarian. Let's see if a libertarian's going to stand by their word.
On the floor, that was to suspend.
I bet they will.
The rules to amend the agenda, and then we'll also then continue on into bylaws.
I mean,
so
the Republicans
after lunch at 2 p.m. Thank you, guys.
The Republicans and the Democrats have already proven that they can't be held to their word. So let's give the Libertarian a chance to prove that they can be left to their word. How about that? Got to say, we must see action and not words. Then let's put her up there and let's see the action. How many corporate sponsors do you think the Libertarian candidate has? How many pharmaceutical industries do you think are trying to fund a candidate, eliminate their monopoly on drugs? How many oil companies do you think are going to be funding a campaign that is actively promoting to end their corporate welfare provided by the federal government? How many industries that are connected to the military-industrial complex are going to be interested in funding a campaign that is actively pursuing the ending of these billion-dollar profit wars that are just killing our soldiers and stuff? So how many HMOs and medical insurance agencies are going to be funding a campaign looking at seriously decreasing their bottom line? I'm just saying. How many pockets do you think Joe Jorgensen and the Libertarians are in? How many do you think they're beholden to? That's the thing. That's the key. The key thing here is beholden, right? Beholden. The Libertarians aren't beholden to anybody. Bernie said he had his own money. He doesn't. He didn't have that much money. He is the longest serving independent in U.S. congressional history. In Vermont. Oops. Ah. Yeah, right?
right at the end of the
So,
recording?
no, I'm still recording.
Well, that's right.
I used to have my lid off. I would spin it like this, and my microphone would be right there, and it would be like so real loud. He's the longest serving independent in U.S. congressional history. Oh, good for him. It's outstanding. Good for Bernie. He's known how to fool his constituency his whole life. He's also never worked a day in his life outside of politics. I don't think he's ever started a business. He's never worked from the bottom up, and he's never, I mean, he's so out of touch with how the rest of the country actually. We're looking at Dr. Joe Jorgensen, who's got a PhD in industrial, has started a business, started a multi-million-dollar business on her own, and I don't think there's any comparison whatsoever. Because a Democrat or a Republican says something during the campaign doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means that they're trying to get votes. Like, anybody, that's what you try to do when you campaign, is get votes. But like I said, the Democrats and the Republicans campaign is one thing and then do something else when they get in office, because they're beholden to these different, corporations and stuff. Libertarians are only beholden to libertarians. So the only ones funding Joe Jorgensen's campaign right now are these people. Well, we're all out to lunch now, but so yeah, the only ones she's got to answer to are us. And yeah, we're going to hold her to her word too. So, but the thing is there's a lot of libertarians that aren't going to agree with some of the stuff that she said in this speech right here. I mean, the hardcore, they want to just, hey, we need to go straight full libertarian, But no, I mean, what she was talking about was a compromise. What is reform, is moving that bar towards liberty, away from big government and into small government. Education at the federal level doesn't end it at the state level. It puts it at the state level to manage their own education. So it's localizing it more, because as the founding fathers knew, each individual state's going to have their own way of doing things, and other states can learn from that type of competition. So if the education of people coming out of Ohio is better than that education that's coming out of Arizona, they can compare and say, what are you doing better than we are, and we can institute that in our state. And then you have, the educational needs of people in New York City are going to be different than the educational needs of people in rural Idaho, in Winchester, Idaho. So it allows a more personalized education, all the way down as low as you want to go. But centralizing education at the federal level is the worst possible thing you could do when it comes to something that needs to be so personalized. So, and I think, and I don't see how anybody would disagree with that. And she wasn't even talking about not funding education. She's just saying to end the federal government's involvement in education. So, I don't see how, and that's the thing, is it's a lot of it just needs to be ended at the federal level. I love the way that she put it. She put it very specifically about decreasing power, without saying, I'm trying to do less work. It's going to be a lot of work for her if she does get up there, to try to get rid of some of this bureaucracy and crap that they have going on in Washington. So. Oh, I guess I should go to lunch, huh? But yeah, I just walked in. I was out talking to a Senate candidate out in the hall. I'm probably going to interview later, and I came in. I was like, Spike's talking. What? So he's talking at lunch, so I got to go find out where Spike's talking, so I can go catch that one too. So I'll be waiting a few minutes. I'll try to get this thing turned back on as soon as I get to Spike's speech. So thanks so much for watching, man, and I hope you appreciate it. I caught Joe Jorgensen, and I'm literally 2 rows back. So I wish I could have zoomed. If anybody knows how to zoom Mo Bison, Volve, if he Volves on here, let me know, because I couldn't zoom. I couldn't figure out how to zoom it. Let me say I could zoom it this way. Nope, I still can't zoom. So appreciate y'all. Love you, KIP. Keep it positive, and I will probably be on here in just a few more minutes. So stick around.